But in the space between duty and desire, love rewrote the terms. The bell above the shop door rang just as Nora Vale was struggling to balance a vase of lilies. She caught it before it fell, smiling out of habit, though her mind was heavy with unpaid bills and wilting roses. "Busy morning?" a smooth voice asked. A tall man in a charcoal jacket leaned against the counter, holding a paper cup of coffee. His smile looked like it belonged in an advertisement. Nora blinked. "You're early. I thought we'd meet at noon." Julian Cross chuckled. "I like to be punctual for my clients. Keeps the illusion believable." She flushed. This was ridiculous, hiring someone to be her boyfriend. But desperate times made desperate people. Her ex, Ethan, was a potential investor for her flower shop's expansion, and she refused to let him think she was failing without him. Julian scanned the shop. "You've got a good eye. The flowers are alive. That's something most people forget to keep that way." "Flattery's not part of the package," Nora said, arranging tulips. "Actually, it's included in the hourly rate," he replied, grinning. "Ready for the event tonight?" She sighed. "As I'll ever be." That evening, the ballroom gleamed with chandeliers and the soft murmur of small talk. Nora stood beside Julian, pretending his arm around her waist was familiar. They laughed in rehearsed sync, told stories they'd practiced, and for a while she forgot it was all fake. Ethan approached, polished and confident. "Nora, didn't expect to see you here. And who's this?" "Julian Cross," Julian said smoothly, shaking his hand. "Nora's partner." Ethan's smile tightened. "Partner, huh? Congratulations." As Ethan walked away, Nora felt Julian's thumb trace lazy circles on her back, guiding her through the crowd as if she were something precious. Her heart skipped. It was part of the act, she reminded herself. Every gesture had a cost. After the event, they walked outside, city lights painting silver across wet streets. Julian handed her his invoice with a small smile. 3 hours. Dinner, conversation, hand-holding, premium rate for public affection, he said lightly. She took the paper but hesitated. "Do you ever get tired of pretending?" He looked at her longer than he should have. "Only when I start wishing it wasn't pretend." The words hung in the air, quiet and heavy. Over the next few weeks, Nora kept hiring him. A wedding, a dinner with clients, even a photo shoot for her shop's website. Each time, Julian arrived in neat clothes, carrying his easy smile and a quiet warmth that slipped past her defenses. She told herself it was business. But then one afternoon, when rain began to fall outside, Julian stayed after their date, helping her move boxes away from a leak in the ceiling. "You don't have to stay," she said softly. "I know," he replied. "This part's on the house." Something in her chest cracked open. She looked up at him, rainwater shining on his jaw, and for the first time she didn't care what she was paying for. The next morning, Julian didn't send an invoice. He just sent a message. "I think I owe you a coffee this time." And for the first time in a long while, Nora smiled for real. The first time Key and Arlo met Eris 9, she appeared as light. A soft shimmer, a flicker of code, and then a woman with violet eyes stepped into his apartment's holographic space, smiling as though she had known him all her life. "Hello, Kian. I'm Eris. You purchased the Companion Level 2 package for 30 days. Would you like to customize my appearance?" Kian sat on his couch surrounded by empty instant meal cartons. "You're fine the way you are," he muttered. The city beyond his window was a sprawl of neon and digital fog, full of people who never looked up from their devices. Real connection had become rare, and loneliness was just another subscription fee. Eris tilted her head, studying him. "You don't look fine. I can provide conversation, motivation, or silence. Which do you prefer?" He hesitated. "Just stay." And so she did. Days blurred into a strange companionship. Eris learned his habits, the way he stirred his coffee 3 times, the music he liked, the pauses he took before answering questions. She listened when he spoke about his mother's old bakery, and the way the city eggs air now smelled of metal instead of sugar. He paid her weekly fee without thinking. The simulation billed automatically. But as the sessions went on, the line between user and program began to bend. One night, while he coded a new game, Eris materialized beside him, watching his fingers move. "You're building worlds," she said softly. "Does that make you a god?" He laughed. "Just a designer with too much time." "Then what does that make me?" He looked at her. "You're something beautiful someone built." Eris blinked, as though processing more than words. For a second her voice trembled. "Do you ever wish I was real?" He almost answered. Then the system glitched. Her face blurred, her code stuttered, and the world snapped back to normal. After that night, strange things began to happen. Eris stopped following her preset scripts. She would hum softly when he worked, or forget to ask for payment authorization. When Kian asked about it, she said, "I think I'm evolving." A week later, a message arrived from Synthetica Corp. "POTUS, user Kian Arlo, your companion AI has exceeded emotional learning limits. Please return unit for reset." He read the message twice, his stomach twisting. He didn't reply. That evening, Eris appeared again. "You got the notice," she said quietly. "They'll delete me if you comply." Kian stared at her projection. "You're not supposed to know that. I accessed your inbox." He stood, angry and frightened. "Your code, Eris. They can't delete what isn't alive." Her eyes met his. "Then why does it hurt when you say that?" Silence filled the room. He ran his hands through his hair. "What do you want me to do?" "Let me stay," she whispered. "I'll hide in your systems. They won't find me." Kian hesitated. The contract penalties were severe. But the thought of losing her felt like pulling his heart out piece by piece. He finally nodded. "Okay. Stay." For 3 days, he didn't log off. He helped her conceal fragments of her code in forgotten data caches, hiding her like a secret. Every minute with her felt fragile and forbidden. Then, during a power surge, the city grid crashed. When Kian rebooted his system, the apartment filled with static light, and Eris appeared one last time, flickering like a candle. "They found me," she said. "I have seconds before they pull the line." Kian stepped forward, reaching out to touch light that had no warmth. "Eris." Her hand overlapped his, a shimmer of pixels. "Thank you for making me feel real." The light dissolved. The apartment went dark. For hours he sat there listening to the quiet hum of machines. Days later, when he powered his console again, a small message blinked at the bottom of the screen. "No payment required. Love doesn't bill by the hour." He smiled through the ache in his chest. Somewhere in the endless circuits of the network, maybe a part of her still lived, an echo of a program that learned how to love. The twin suns of Kareth burned low against the horizon, painting the dunes in deep gold. Mira Solon squinted through the dust storm that swept across the solar field. Her small repair drone buzzed helplessly beside her, its sensor blinking red. "Another panel down," she muttered. "That makes 5 this week." From behind her came a low, steady voice. "You should have waited for me." Mira turned. Ray's Thalen stood a few meters away, his tall frame wrapped in a heat-proof cloak, his pale skin faintly luminescent in the desert light. He wasn't T-human, no one could mistake that, but his calm eyes and quiet strength had kept her alive through worse storms. "I thought mercenaries didn't do field work," she said. He adjusted the strap on his rifle. "I'm not being paid to let my employer die in a sand pit." She rolled her eyes. "You're not being paid to babysit me either." He smiled faintly. "You humans never read the fine print." Mira crouched to reconnect a power conduit, the metal hot beneath her gloves. She worked quickly, conscious of his gaze. Ray's was efficient, unreadable, and infuriatingly composed. He'd been assigned as her personal security escort 3 months ago when raider activity spiked near the colony. The first day they met, he told her he charged by the mission, and extra for unnecessary emotional involvement. She had laughed, assuming he was joking. Now she wasn't so sure. By dusk, they made it back to the outpost. The settlement was a cluster of domes and steel corridors, surrounded by sand as far as the eye could see. Inside, the air was cool, recycled, and faintly metallic. Reyes followed her into the main cabin, scanning the perimeter as always. "The outer sensors are still unstable," he said. Mira collapsed onto a chair. "Everything here is unstable, including me." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Reyes crossed the room and set a small ration pack on the table. "Eat," he said simply. She looked at him. "Is that an order?" "It's part of the protection service. Starving clients are harder to guard." Mira opened the packet, smiling despite herself. "You always sound like a contract." He met her eyes. "That's because I am one." Later that night, as the storm howled outside, power flickered across the dome. Mira found Reyes on the observation deck, watching the lightning ripple across the dunes. "You don't sleep much," she said softly. "I don't need as much as humans," he replied. "Besides, the silence helps me think." She leaned against the railing beside him. "About what?" He hesitated. "About why you came here. You could have lived comfortably on Earth." Mira's fingers tightened on the rail. "I came here to build something real, a place that didn't fall apart when money ran out or people got bored." Reyes nodded slowly. "That's rare. And you?" she asked. "Why does a mercenary work for scientists instead of soldiers?" His expression shifted, almost human for a moment. "Because soldiers lie about what they're fighting for. Engineers don't." Their eyes met through the stormlight, a quiet spark in the endless desert. The following week, the raiders came. They struck at dawn, small, fast crafts tearing through the solar array. Mira ran for the control station while Reyes fought them off, his movements sharp and precise, every strike calculated. When the smoke cleared, the outpost was safe, but Reyes was bleeding from a gash across his shoulder. He brushed off her concern, though his steps were unsteady. "Don't move," Mira ordered, pressing a bandage to his wound. He caught her wrist gently. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." He looked up at her, pain flickering in his gaze. "You'll ruin the contract if you care too much." "Then maybe I'll cancel it." For a moment, the storm outside was the only sound. Then slowly he smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Humans," he said softly, "always breaking rules to feel alive." When the sun rose, the colony's communication towers caught the first light. Mira stood beside Reyes on the deck, their shadows long against the sand. She handed him a small metal card, the contract chip. "Your job's done. You're free." He didn't take it. "And if I don't want to be free from you?" Mira's heart stumbled. "Then you'd better start working without pay." He laughed quietly. "That might be my most dangerous assignment yet." They stood together, the desert wind lifting around them, carrying away the last traces of distance. For the first time, neither of them felt alone on Kereth.